Good evening, everyone. I am Rahul Soni. On behalf of TCS IN, I welcome you all to this masterclass where we will talk about the AI-powered financial revolution from data to decisions. We live in a world where every financial move, from approving a loan to spotting fraud, relies on data. But data alone isn't enough. The real game changer is artificial intelligence, which transforms how this data is turned into smart decisions. This is what we call the AI-powered financial revolution, where machine learning is helping banks make quicker credit checks, ensures detect risk faster, and investors get sharper insights. It's not just about automation, it's about making finance more intelligent, secure, and personalized. So in this session, you will dive into how AI moves from data decisions in finance, explore practical use cases like fraud detection, credit scoring, and portfolio insights. Discover how the certificate program by TIDF, IIT Guwahati, and TCS IN can help you to build a career at the intersection of finance and AI. So whether you come from a finance background, IT, or a business background, this session offers an exciting opportunity to explore how AI is redefining the financial landscape and guided by leading academic and industry experts. So we are honored to welcome Mr. Vaibhav Dobriyal sir, from co-founder and chief product officer at Lumic.ai, who will be leading this insightful masterclass. So Dobriyal sir is the co-founder and chief CFO of Lumic, a pioneering FSI data and AI specialist committed to building innovative solutions in the realm of modern financial enterprises. He is an alumnus of IIT Kanpur, and his journey is marked by expertise in two pivotal domains: academic research and building and implementing products, cultivated through years of dedicated learning and hands-on experience. He has achieved remarkable success on a global scale, orchestrating and delivering multi-million dollar product initiatives across diverse regions. From the dynamic markets of Europe and the Middle East to the vibrant landscapes of Australia, Southeast Asia, and the United States. His strategic vision and leadership have consistently driven impactful results. He has an unwavering commitment to excellence and dedication to advancing the frontiers of data and AI. So, most welcome, sir. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Rahul, and thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure, and it's a great platform to connect to the brightest minds in the country.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining. Audience, from the introduction alone, you can already sense the depth of experience and expertise he brings to the table. I would like to tell you that this is a valuable opportunity to engage directly with such a distinguished professional. And so I encourage you all to make the most of it. Please feel free to ask the questions during the webinar, and you can put your questions in the chat box. Ask, sir, that as artificial intelligence continues to power a financial revolution, how do you see the fintech ecosystem evolving in the coming years? What kind of career opportunities are emerging for students and professionals? And if you could highlight the key skills and roles that learners should focus on to build a career in this fast-growing AI-driven domain. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Rahul. That's an interesting question to ask. The first thing, if we quickly look at the industry, right, and I'll talk about it more in the later part also. The AI in fintech or in general in financial service industries, what is happening is we are moving from digitization to intelligence. When I say digitization, COVID was an accelerator on how most of our journeys, be it opening a bank account, to opening a financial, to buying an insurance, or to opening a fixed deposit. All of these journeys moved into apps, became smoother, right? Now, what is happening? What has started happening recently is that more and more data is being digitally collected, and there are continuous efforts being made to create value out of this data or monetize this data. Now, uh, mobile apps, UPI wallets, a lot of fintech came into these plays. A lot of companies where banks were slow, right? And what has happened is AI, and especially generative AI, is now bringing a new kind of revolution. Machines now have capability to think and reason, right? Until today, machines only required us to do decisioning, tell them what are the rules to be followed, and so on. It was a human thing to do. Now, with the advent of generative AI and agentic AI in particular, what is happening is machines are becoming more and more smarter. They are able to work for a goal rather than just automate a task. So in banking, you see, personalized financial journeys. We are seeing AI-based relationship managers. Sometimes we don't even know it's not a human that we are talking to. Real-time fraud detection and insurance. We ourselves have built, virtual employees, underwriters, claim processors, and so on. In capital markets, if you look at it, the way investments were happening, how distributors engage with RM. So long story short, the big from this whole digitization to intelligence, and within intelligence also now a lot of focus on agentic AI where autonomous systems can reason and act. I think that's what is happening in the ecosystem. What kind of career opportunities are there? If I talk about career opportunities, two things. One is there's a dearth of talent in the market. It's expected that AI talent in financial services will grow by 40%, as per some estimates. But it's no longer about coding or data science. That's something I want to call out very early. Doing AI requires a much wider experience, and it's an intersection of three things: AI, domain, and business. And I'll talk about it more when I move to the second part. So it's not an easy thing to do, but again, if you have a systematic frame of mind, you could work on AI skills, the tech skills, the domain, understanding financial services, and then business, why business is trying to do. Now, in terms of opportunities, opens up a whole new world, be it the core work of data science, machine learning engineers, or, the generative AI, or AI engineers, as we call them nowadays, ML ops, LLM ops, AI product managers. So this whole gamut of things have come up. There are further roles like business analysts, risk analysts, more focused on AI. So for students, this means that, or even for professionals who have some bit of an experience or coding, this means that they'll have to diversify rather than sticking to, let's say, I will learn just one tech. It means diversify, and it would require a systematic approach to learn. Why I say so is because for the past 21 years, I've been doing this only. So that's how I see it coming, that it's opening up more and more. And now in terms of one more step deeper, if I go into the skills, right? So what is on the technology side? Of course, the core skills of AI, machine learning, deep learning, we call it legacy AI nowadays, and more importantly, generative AI, even agentic. A lot of information is available. Democratization is already there. Pick up the tools. So Python seems to have be ruling the world. TensorFlow, PyTorch for traditional technologies, and more agentic frameworks, right? Cloud is critical piece of the puzzle. Nobody can leave it out. The domain skills, we need to understand how, make a conscious effort to understand how banking, insurance, asset management companies, and capital markets are progressing. And similarly, understands the regulatory frameworks also. I mean, it's good to keep an eye opening. What is IRDI, which is the insurance regulator? RBI, which is the banking regulator. What is SEBI doing in work? What it helps you analyzes, or what is happening in industry. And I'm not basically touching each one of them is critical as you grow in your career. And credit risk, fraud, customer cycle, these are some of the things which will remain relevant forever. Business and soft skills is often what gets ignored. Nobody talks about it. But what I say is framing problems or solutioning is the most critical thing that needs to be done. Storytelling with data and AI, that's where I see most data scientists, most AI practitioners lacking. Solutioning, if you ask me what is one skill that I see the whole industry missing, it is the solutioning. Second is the storytelling, understanding the data, getting a hang of it. And third is collaboration with cross-functional teams. So it's not just coding, which is the expectation now. I think the future leaders are expected to understand all these nuances together. You'll be surprised to find that people with accounting background, chartered accounts, sitting at the top of banks and having a deep understanding, for example, of Kubernetes. That's the reality of the world we are in. So deep tech skills, but a deeper understanding of domain and business and soft skill. I think that's the mix that will take us forward.
Thank you, sir. I think it's truly encouraging to hear from the expert directly that this space is becoming more inclusive, opening doors for learners from diverse academic backgrounds, not just finance or tech. So with that insightful beginning, it's now to dive deeper into today's core topic, the AI-powered financial revolution from data to decision. And I would request our the respected sir to please go ahead with the masterclass.
Thank you, Rahul. Thank you so much. So, in terms of what I want to cover, I want to briefly touch upon what is happening in fintech or financial services in general and what's AI happening. There are a few things. First, of course, a brief introduction of why we are talking about fintech and AI today. This understanding is critical. Um, then, the whole value chain. Why? Because I already spoke, right? The understanding of the domain is critical. So if you understand what are the different pieces, where does businesses in financial services make money, it helps visualize the right solutions. A slightly deeper dive into AI. And then most importantly, AI in action. What are people really using the tech for? And then the last part where I want to cover is path to proficiency, right? So now, coming back to the fact that why so much buzz around fintech, FSI, and why now? See, the whole market has been exploding. We are moving from 9 billion in 2021 to an expectation of the market cap being 41 billion for fintech and tech and FSI. It's rapidly growing. And the and all of this, a large part of it is fueled by AI and generative AI, right? So 1.5 trillion is the industry only for AI and generative AI as of today. And I was mentioning in the earlier part to your response also that, this growth is coming, has led to a boom of, specialists in AI. In fact, we visualize even in Lumec that, there'll be only one skill, an AI engineer going forward. So, but if you look at it general, AI product manager, data scientist, ML engineers, many of these things will come into play. But this isn't about jobs. What we believe is if you look at these spends in general, financial services are the highest spenders in the whole spectrum of what gets spent on IT. And within that itself, a large part of investment is coming from AI and generative AI. But before I go there more deep into it, what is happening, I think it's important to have a look at what is fintech and what is FSI. So with that, and I want to call out a lot of time fintechs get associated with companies like Paytm or Razorpay and so on, but that's not exactly what my point of view is. Fintech is not a separate industry. Fintech is a force multiplier. It's a technology force that is transforming and modernizing the core pillars that we just discussed right now. What's important about fintech and why this differentiation came into play is because there were certain areas where banks, for example, were not doing well. They were not good at enabling quick payments, and that's how Paytm came into play, right? Similarly, payments between different companies was a payment. That's how Razorpay got involved. But essentially, even getting a new credit card was a core bank that a bank was a core activity that a bank or a lender was supposed to facilitate. There was a gap, and that's how some of these companies were born. But if you look at it, there are broadly three categories in this. One is, of course, banking and lending. The second is insurance, right? And then the third is asset management and capital markets. When I talk about banking, the core crux of it is, managing your money and then giving it back to some other customers when they need it. Insurance is more about managing risks. And capital management and capital markets, the whole idea here is that, hey, given this, assets that we have, given this money that we have, capital that we have, how do we grow that? So essentially, if you look at it deeper, you need to look at it from a lens of a financial services value chain. Why it's important is because if you understand how financial service companies, all these banks and insurers make money, it will be easier for you to map your AI skills and move them in the right direction. Right. So when you look at financial services, onboarding is something that you need to do irrespective of which service you are consuming, right? So your account opening, your customer process where they ask for your photo and stuff like that, right? Deposit payments, that's a critical thing that happens in many of these. Even if when you're buying mutual funds, you essentially pay them money, right? Uh, Lending and credit, that's more specific to lenders and banks where, they are giving you money and charging you a certain interest rate. Insurance is more about, risk-related services. Asset and wealth management, I already spoke. Risk compliance and customer experience and so on. But what's important to notice here is that, this is not one company. It's an whole ecosystem. And more importantly, you can look at it like a customer life cycle. A bank, insurer, or a mutual fund is focusing on some parts of this value chain. Now, if we go deeper and look one step below, and I think here it will become easier for you guys to relate. Within banking itself, companies like SBI, ICICI, Access, you know the names, right? But they answer to certain parts of that ecosystem. So they are more active in onboarding KYC. They are in deposits and payments. They are in lending and credit, risk and compliance, and customer experience. Right. Insurance, on the other end, is more focused on underwriting, where you are trying to buy something, let's say, insure your pet or insure your vehicle or your house against fire and so on, right? So they collect premiums and so on. So the point that I'm trying to make here is each company or each institution within financial services also only addresses some parts of this value chain. And it's critical to know how businesses make money so that when you are doing these initiatives, it's clear to you that what is the value driver that we are going to provide. With that, I'll jump into the second part of the problem statement because we are essentially talking about AI in fintech, right? So, what exactly is AI? And I'm not going to give you a very theoretical way of AI, but essentially, AI is a broader concept where machines or computers are being able to carry out tasks in a smart way. Now, it's a very, very open-ended statement, but in general, if you look at it, there are three big areas to look at it. One is, of course, what we are doing most of the times now, the artificial narrow intelligence. But you would have also heard, a lot of buzz around AGI, especially OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT, Sam Altman, or, even, uh, 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 Elon was talking about AGI coming soon, right? Even NVIDIA. So essentially, what is happening most of the time is narrow intelligence. You have specific solutions, credit scoring, fraud alerts, and so on. It's weak AI, light AI, but this was the easiest AI to build. Now, what we are saying is, hey, we'll move in general direction and go into artificial general intelligence, where basically machines can match, or a system or a collections of these machines get to a state, or agents get to a state where they can outperform or at least match humans, right? Super intelligence in my mind is fairy dust. That's more of an area of Terminator. It's still far away. What we are saying in this area is that machines go, I mean, they get sentience, they have senses, and they'll go beyond humans. Now, before we go deeper, I think it's also important to see what has been happening in at a very high level, right? So this is not a new field. The field started in 50s, and until 80s, it was majorly rule-based systems. There was IT, there was automation, but basically everything was encoded into business rules. Somebody write if this, then that, at a simplistic level. Then came the machine learning era, which started somewhere in the 90s. It was more about, hey, I have this data. How do I get or train an algorithm to do a specific job? You would have heard about predictive modeling in this area, XGBoost, or random forest and stuff like that, right? Or even decision trees. Then came deep learning. Deep learning was the time when neural networks or computer vision or CNN, they became popular. We were able to do more. And one of the big challenges of this stage was that the explainability was really bad. It was very difficult to know why the algorithm was saying what it is saying. Then came the area of Gen AI starting 2020, especially with the advent of ChatGPT, and that's where things started going, really interesting, because this was the first time when machines started to move in a direction of reasoning, right? And that's how finally agentic AI was born. Agentic AI, like I said, the machines have a capability to work towards a goal with reasoning. Reasoning is a human territory. If you think about reasoning, right, we often say you would have heard somebody say that sleep over it. I mean, you are working on a big problem, you don't think, you say that I'll sleep over it and come back. Basically, what you're saying is, I'll think for a long time and then, come out to a solution. That exactly started happening, recently with agentic AI. And what are the kind of things that we are building here? For example, I spoke about virtual employees, AI underwriters or claim agents, which can look, at your hospital when you are just getting discharged from a hospital and verify that all the tests, all the reasoning, all the symptoms, and all the medicines that you were given, all the interventions that happened, they are in sync or not. So that's the really epitome. This is the broad contour of how we've moved from rules to agents in this whole space. Now, it would be prudent to also look at what are the different problem types at a high level, right? And how each era we have been trying to solve. This is something interesting when you look at technology, that a lot of time we are trying to use new technology to solve similar kind of problem, but we are trying to get better at solving those problems, right? So, for example, Ranking is simply that, if you have multiple loan offers, or if you want to buy a stock or mutual funds, which is the number one, number two, and so on. During each of the different eras, there was different technology used, but essentially what has happened is we have made progress in terms of how we were solving those problems. What's important to know is, what's on the left and problem types, because you'll encounter many variations of these problems. And then you can also have that a ranking and a recommendation gets clubbed together. So what is the recommendation? Recommendation is, hey, given this option, what is the right thing? What is the right channel, let's say, to contact me, Dobby, right? So whether you should do a WhatsApp or whether you should call me, what time you should call me, whether you should speak in English or whether you should speak in Hindi, and so on. Classifications are another group, whether you should uh, take, let's say, give this loan to this person or not, right? So approve or reject a loan, fraud, whether it's a genuine transaction or a fraud transaction. Regressions are another set of problems where you are trying to predict, things like credit score or interest rates and so on. Clustering is an unsupervised problem. Supervised problems are, where you have outcomes already defined. Clustering is more of an unsupervised problem where, given a set of, yeah, let's say customers for a bank, what are the different groups in which they can be classified, right? And anomaly detection is something, humans are exceptionally good at. Spot fraudulent transaction or AML violators, or, find out any anomaly into the ecosystem. So the point is, many of these problems have stayed relevant for times, and they continue to be improved by different eras of, AI that has come through. Now, let's go one step deeper, because I spoke about a lot of problems, but I also want to talk about one area which I believe each one of you will be able to relate to. Many of you would have taken student loans or have consumer durable loans, at least, people who are buying or might have bought a phone or something, right? Now, why is it also important is because I'm also sharing you how where most of the AI practitioners fail today. They have good understanding of algorithms, they have good understanding of programming, but they don't have a good understanding of what they are solving. And I'm sharing that thought process also with you. For example, if you look at credit underwriting, it's a no go problem, right? When we say go, it means give this loan to this person. And when we say no go, don't pay, right? It's basically a trust problem because the lender doesn't know you, the bank or the Bajaj Finserv or SBI doesn't know you, and their primary question is, will you repay? Right. So the challenge is that the traditional underwriting is slow. It's difficult to judge ability to pay and intent to pay, and I'll talk about it in a minute. But essentially, what you are trying to say is it's a very difficult process. And why it matters is, especially in a country like India, right? One, let's say you want to buy a phone, you are standing in Chroma, right? There are representatives from 4 or 5 banks there. Whoever gives you the first offer, because it's very competitive industry, right? You'll take the loan from them. The second is, many people don't have credit histories. So the problem is, okay, for these new guys, who don't have taken yet a loan, how do how do you bring them into this inclusion? So faster, fairer credit decisions is something very critical. Now, traditionally, what would happen is, you would have forms, you would have ID proofs and income statements. With digitization, you had online journeys, but eventually it was all going, even after digitizing, to a manual officer who was verifying. This was a gentleman sitting in a bank. First, or the outcome was, especially when it was totally manual, it was weeks of delay, often rejection. And thin file, or, not having a credit history was one of the big problems that people had. Now, what happened over time is, AI came into play, the journeys became digitized, and then AI got this capability to look at, different parameters, and I'll talk about those parameters in detail. But essentially, look at the whole data holistically, and then we were also able to bring in external data. And what it started doing is, now within few minutes, especially for smaller loans, right? It's possible to do decisioning with fairer access to first-time borrowers, right? So it's a very, very practical problem. In fact, we have built many of these systems for our customers, as well. Now, how do you do it? You have as an AI practitioner, first you have to go understand, draw a cut. And I'll tell you how to do it because you might not know many of these things. ChatGPT or Gemini or Perplexity, all of them are your friends in this area. What we need to understand is, hey, what is the problem that I'm specifically solving? Within credit underwriting, also, there are three sub problems. Ability to pay is a simple assessment whether as an individual, the person you're trying to give a loan, who's applying for a loan, do they have the right means to pay? Do they have enough monthly earning to pay back this loan? For example, if they're employed or if they are self-employed, how will they pay them back? The second critical part of this problem is intent to pay. Intent to pay is, hey, is somebody intentionally trying to game the system? They are coming from a fraud perspective that will not pay back. And then third is more of a regulatory play where, your KYC, know your customer, basically, who am I lending to? Are they going to use the money for the right purpose? There's no anti-money laundering. There is no terror funding, for example, right? So there are sub problems. So as an AI practitioner, it's very important for you to know whom you are talking to, what you are talking. For example, the ability to pay is a credit team's problem. Intent to pay is a risk control team in a bank. And KYC, ML, ATF are compliance teams, right? So it's important to know that we are trying to solve the ability to pay problem here. Now, there's a lot of internal data that is available when you provide information, right? You fill up forms or you do digital journeys, or they may already know you. You may be an existing customer. But then there are different categories of these customer personal details, your demographics, age, qualification, where do you stay? There are stability integrators, whether you stay in a house, how long, for example, have you been using the same mobile number, right? Which locality, which neighborhood, whether it's a pakka house, whether it's a kacha house, lifestyle, other assets, right? Especially when you go into bigger loan ticket items, people come and visit you also. They're trying to assess your stability, right? And then loan details, of course, whether it's a personal asset, whether it's a commercial car, whether you're buying a taxi or whether you are buying a phone and so on, right? Income and support, where is the source of your funds? How you pay it back, right? Whether you are into agriculture versus, somebody who's self-employed versus somebody who's salaried. And then the professional stability is, for example, whether you work, for example, with TCS or whether you run your own business or whether you run with a company, whether your salary comes at the same time or not, right? So the point is there's a lot of data that gets generated. So the first part that we did is identified which sub problem that you want to solve, ability to pay, what kind of data is available, and then third is, okay, is there any data from outside that I can use? Bureau is one common example. So credit bureau, you would have heard the word CIBIL, TransUnion. TransUnion is the company behind CIBIL. There is CRIF. There are multiple bureaus in India. But essentially what they share is, and especially for customers who have prior loan histories, how many inquiries are you making? Are you credit hungry? Did you pay back your loans on time? For the last 36 months, whether you have been paying for live loans, what has been your behavior paying them back? And other information, for example, which company you work for, what is your phone number, and so on. And then they give you a score also, right? This also becomes a critical input. There are other services also, for example, Credit Vidya, for example, many of the apps look at your SMS, especially if you are on Android, right? And gather information basis that. And then the third play is, then this internal data, this bureau score and other details and surrogate data, for example, Credit Vidya or your phone history, all goes into an ability to pay assessment, and which is where machine learning typically gets used. Earlier we were using regression models and so on, right? And then to come to a credit decision. So even for a problem that you are all familiar with, it all needs to come together to make it work. Now, what are the other use cases in financial services? There are hundreds and thousands of use cases. I can list many more. For example, in insurance, I already spoke about underwriting. Look at an application and do. Even in underwriting in banking also, we already spoke about one use case. There is fraud. There is relationship management assistance. Which is the right credit card offered to pitch you, whether we should give you an auto loan at what percentage of interest and so on. So the point is, there are hundreds and hundreds of use cases, but each one of them needs to follow the right blueprint. As an AI practitioner, you have to understand what problem, what data we are dealing with, and then get to the fact that we will actually be applying technology. It's critical to know, especially at your stage when you are in your formative years, that that, up to 70-80% of your time you will not be coding, but trying to understand the domain, trying to understand what are the right ingredients to solve this problem. Now, with that, I'll take a pause and hand it back to Rahul. Rahul, you want to talk more about your course and how it can help students?
Yes, sir. So thank you for the incredible first half of the session. The way you broke down concepts with such relatable examples really made it easy for all of us. And I think the way you are explaining and the masterclass is going on, we can hear you for hours and hours, but we have time constant as well. So, okay, thank you. So audience, as you can see on the screen, the course name is AI in FinTech. So as a part of our commitment to bringing you the best career opportunities, we are thrilled to present an exceptional program launched in collaboration with TIH, TIDF, IIT Guwahati, and TCSI. So this is a 3-month live online course that shows how artificial intelligence is being used of finance. Sir has already mentioned so many things about the same. You will also learn about real life applications like fraud detection, credit scoring, risk analysis, and algorithmic trading. Sessions are led by IIT Guwahati professors and fintech experts, making it easy to understand both technical and financial concepts. So whether you are from a financial background or from tech one, this course helps you to build skills that are in high demand today. So you will also get hands-on experience with tools used in the industry. So links has already been posted in the chat box. You can directly click on the link and register for the course. If you have a question related to eligibility, so it's clearly mentioned students pursuing engineering, MBA, BBA, BCom, MCom, BSc, MSc, you all can apply for this course. Also, those who are job seekers and who have working experience from 0 to 3 years, who want to build future ready skills in tech and or in financial roles, they can opt for this course. And I would also like to highlight the potential career path. You can also see in the slides as well. ML Gen AI engineer fintech, data analyst fintech, risk analytics specialist, fintech product analyst, blockchain engineer, and cryptocurrency DeFi specialist. And the average salary will range around from 7 LPA to 20 LPA. Can we have the next slide, please? Okay, so you can see the QR code as well in the next slide. Yes, so you can directly take the snapshot and go in the link and register for the course. You can see the faculty list as well here. All we have from the INIs. Okay, so I would request all of you, all the attendees who want to skill themselves, who want to learn AI in fintech, they can opt this course. Okay, so take the next step and enroll in the program designed by IIT Guwahati in collaboration with TCSI. I think it's your chance to build in demand skills and get ready with the guidance from the best. Thank you. So over to you, sir.
And thank you, Rahul. Maybe I'll take some questions post which has come from. So the first one that I'm looking at is how econometrics and data analytics expert help to prosper in fintech area. Uh, so see, essentially what is happening is AI, though all the good things are often spoken in connection with AI, but like I said, it's not primarily a domain of data scientists. 80% of the time you are dealing with the data. And that's the sad reality. In fact, when we started Lumic, I wanted to start, back then it was called Big Data Analytics and Analytics Company. But essentially what we realized very fast is the problem lies with the data. Why I'm saying so is the data analytics or data analysts I don't know what you mean when you say data analytics expert, but the journey starts from data analyst, where you get a sense of the data, you get a hang of the data. That's most critical in any of these fields. I mean, if somebody was asked to create a model that you predict the price of a house basis the number of lizards, and you push it to an algorithm, the algorithm will tell you that when given 4.5 lizards, this would be the price because the I mean, you're boosting, bagging any of these algorithms are dumb. What I'm trying to convey is the context is most important. So yes, when you understand economics, when you understand things like, how businesses make money, how data is organized and how it is getting captured in a process, it helps structure the problems in the right way. And if you would have seen the way I described the credit underwriting problem, that's where most data scientists struggle. I think people who understand data, people who understand econometrics or economics of it, will have a much bigger advantage provided they pick up the tech skills, right? Now, coming back to the second question, which is more around, finance sector or IT sector hugely affected by generative AI. Yes, that's the right reading. There are a number of things which are changing rapidly in fintech landscape, and there is no single player who can rightly say they are making expert professionals. I'll not go there, but essentially what I can tell you is what my reading of this change is. Um, IT IT was known for taking away jobs from other this thing. That has been the reality for last 30 years. This is the first time when we are given competition. But essentially, see what happens is when industrial revolution also happened, humans moved to higher order roles. What is the skill that it's difficult for these LLMs or SLMs, to mimic? Solutioning, which problem to tackle. If you would have seen while AI dev posted this, another thing that is happening is 95% of the generative AI or agentic projects are failing. That's a recent quote from an MIT study. If you don't put technology in the right place, the technology will not deliver value. It will not make business sense, right? So the point that I'm trying to say is the value will get created. There will be no dearth of jobs for people who know where to use this technology, what solution to create, and what value. And it might sound like that, you'll need fancy MBA degrees or you need a lot of business experience. No, we all need sensible, common experience to being able to have all those skills, and then you will be able to solve it. Why I'm able to, share it with so much of confidence, the technology keeps on changing. And you would have seen when I shared that slide, right? The problem statements still remain the same. So what's important to know is why we are doing what we are doing, and I think that is what will help us save our jobs. If you personally ask me, these are some of the best tools that we ever had access to. We are lucky to be in this time, but then, it's how you make, most of it. Deep Blue. Oh, that's an interesting question. I don't know who's reading about Deep Blue now. Deep Blue was pretty old. Deep Blue was brute force. It was at best what you would call rules, nothing fancy beyond that. Okay. Why it was able to beat humans? So there are two things that happens in chess. One is that chess is deterministic, unlike AlphaGo, which was from Google, which beat in Go. Go has much. It's not easy to calculate the number of permutations and combinations. So that's the reason why there was a big gap between Deep Blue and AlphaGo. And Deep Blue was pure brute force. A lot of compute thrown at a problem, so the computer was able to do a lot of calculations. In my mind, it's more like running a big calculator than anything else. Okay. Background will we get financial domain knowledge? See, this course is not designed to replace the financial domain knowledge, but at least people like me come here to showcase their skills. I'm also a techie. I'm an M-Tech, and I've been good at tech all these years. But the point that I'm trying to emphasize is yes, more than knowing finance, learn how to do solutioning. People like me will try to come in and share their experience building solutions, and probably that will be useful. Do read a lot. There are people on Medium whom you can follow. There are problems outside that gets exposed. And like I said, don't just go by what is printed, but more around the patterns, like the different kind of problems.
Questions from on email as well, those who have not joined, but asked some questions. So I would like to take one question. What specific AI-driven tools or platforms do you believe will be the game changers for small and medium-sized businesses in the financial sector?
Uh, okay, so when agentic AI came up, probably the idea that stuck personally to me was the fact that now it's possible for a 10 people company to do $1 billion. I mean, 10 people company to become $1 billion valuation. And why so is, for example, we have ourselves built some virtual employees, which we have recently launched. The idea is now because computers can reason, computers can think, computers can work for a goal. This opens up new kinds of problem solving. But the point is not everybody is able to understand. In order to operate in this area, again, I'll go back to what I said earlier. You need to understand domain, you need to understand tech, and you need to understand, have those soft skills because you will be dealing with more humans when you're trying to solve these problems. You'll need a deeper understanding of business, how things work, how people make money, how these businesses make money, because then only you'll be able to pick the right levers. So yes, agentic AI is what I'm really excited about, not just theoretically reading about it, but because we have built things and we have seen the potential of it. That will continue. But yes, again, what goes back is if you get a hang of data, if you understand what's happening, I think that is one skill which will also stay relevant because irrespective of what happens, more and more data will continue to get generated. So, guys, we spoke about one. So, where we started from is what is financial services or fintech in general. Then we dwelled deeper into uh, you know, and the brief understanding of AI, at least at a high level, shared some concepts with you. Then in the third part, what we move to is how it gets, I mean, a deeper view into one particular type of problem, which is credit underwriting. And then I shared with you the different common kind of problem patterns that I've been seeing, happening. We also talked about a timeline. Now, the point is, And I think there were some questions which is most relevant is what is the path to proficiency, right? Basically, in order to do this AI, what is the skills that need to be done? Um, so see, probably unlike what most people think, and I've seen entry level data engineers to people from IITs to people from Brilliant, and even myself when I was just starting, right? It's not just about coding. This is not programming. It's not about coding. It's about connecting three things: connecting data, models, and business. When I say models, it's more about machine learning models or deep learning models, but now agents and everything as well. It's a team sport. When I say team sport, everything needs to come together. There are many specialists, but what I believe is eventually everybody will become an AI engineer. When you want to become an AI engineer, there are three skills that you need to know. The first one is understanding the data. The data needs these data, the data becomes the critical input. You would have heard garbage in, garbage out, and so on. And unfortunately, the data is proliferating. You have no control where, what kind of data you'll get from. So what you need is data engineering skills. You need to know APIs, you need to know have a basic sense of databases, SQL, ETL, and so on, right? What I'm trying to say is understand the data and have basic skills around how to. I mean, for people who have a technical bend of mind, they'll know the pandas and Python doesn't scale. So how do you do this at large scale? You will end up using things like, PySpark, or eventually you'll go into Databricks, or, you'll get into Glue on AWS ecosystem and so on. What I'm trying to do is scaling is where the problem lies, right? So collecting customer transaction data, credit bureau reports, social digital footprints. So data collection, understanding, getting a hold of how data gets processed is critical. The second is data processing. And again, what I personally believe is the field is going to be open for generalists, not specialists, right? So it's important that you have skills, or if you don't have a skill, you understand how it needs to be done, because then you can go and use all these cursors and lovables and replets of the world to do some of this work as well. But you need to know the concepts. Second is data processing, right? Now this data needs to go. You could be doing a machine learning algorithm or a deep learning algorithm, but essentially, if it's data, you should have a feel of statistics. What is a p-value? How do you do hypothesis testing, right? You should have a feeling of cloud platforms. You should have an understanding of governance. So you know, this data needs to, when you are talking about converting it, be it agentic, the words may change. And again, it's a rapidly evolving field. But what I'm trying to convey to you is that, data collection, data processing, both of them are important. What is, most important is visualizing and reporting. I've seen people systematically ignore it. You have a great model, you have done a great work. If you're not able to do the right kind of storytelling, if you're not able to put it in the right tool and show it to people, whether you're more, for example, observability for your model. How many of you know that, a machine learning model or any ML model or deep learning model is best on the day it is deployed in production? After that, it only go the performance only goes down. So the point that I'm trying to make is you should have that understanding of how to present it better as a story. I think these three skills stay critical irrespective of what part you want to play in the value chain. Data engineers, data scientists, ML engineers, product managers, business analysts, different roles. And what's also important is you'll see many people who operate across many of these roles. So now the question is, okay, what is a good starting point, right? So, like I said, there is nothing more important. If I have to leave one message for all of you, it's not enough to just code. We will all figure out that, very soon that code can be, machines will write code better than us, right? But what's important, like I said, is all these three things and focus on the bottom two box. First one you need to know, because then you have a you know what is an agentic framework, what is PyTorch, scikit-learn, TensorFlow. Don't go by names, because see, each one of them is rapidly changing. uh, for those who know linear programming, for those who know regression, know the concepts, they would have already picked up how to manage data, how to massage data, what to do, right? So what I'm saying is have a general sense of what are the AI ML tools, have a knowledge of data, SQL, Python, APIs, those are good, and cloud, most important, right? Because many of these problems, uh, I mean, for example, Lumic only operates on cloud. So, that's a critical piece. The second two boxes are much more important, especially as soon as you, pick up the technical skills. So domain skills, don't ignore it. How banking works, how insurance work, capital markets, use Chat GPT, Gemini, anything that you have, right? And understand, you could ask it to structure and, take you to a level where you understand what problem you are trying to solve. Because, for example, if you remember, I talked about credit underwriting. Don't fall into the pitfall that you don't know that I'm trying to solve ability to pay. and not intent to pay. Intent to pay is your fraud, right? Ability to pay is the means whether somebody has the right means to pay back the loans, right? So it's important to know, and that comes from an understanding of credit risk, fraud, customer cycle, and so on. Business and soft skills. You can be a great coder, you can be a great guy, but if you're not able to explain your ideas, not back it up with data, not do the right kind of problem framing and storytelling, I think it will not come to work. So translating AI into business impact, I think this is the area where most people, young people I see struggle with. So this is good thing, and all of it can be learned. So again, you'll need technical depth, you'll need financial domain understanding, and you'll need business storytelling. And I'm telling you, this is the only time when you have access to tools where there is support available. So use these chatbots, use these LLMs, take subscriptions you can play. Don't see it as a very high expense. Look at it this way: for $25, you have access to somebody who knows many more things. So that's how I feel that, what is the right kind of a representative skill in this area. So that's all I had. And yeah, thank you. Thank you for coming up here. And I'll be happy to take more questions if you have.
Thanks a lot, sir, for the incredible masterclass. So, from the email, I can see few more questions.
Please.
Swapnil is asking, sir, how do you foresee the integration of AI with blockchain technology transforming sectors like payments, lending, or investment management in the near future?
Hmm. See, okay. What is so great about blockchain? The great thing about blockchain is immutable. Think of it as a database where, once you write something, you cannot take it back, right? You cannot change it. And what's beautiful about it is, when you bring it up with when you match it up with AI, you get data which is far more. See, you would have heard garbage in, garbage out, and stuff like that. So essentially, what all of it means is, I have data which has noise. I have data which doesn't have truth. At least with blockchain, that trust in data will dramatically improve. That's my reading. I also want to call out that blockchain is not an easy technology to use and commoditize. Why? Because I also ran a blockchain startup. We incubated one. Blockchain is good for solving problems, and a lot of those problems are in the realms of government. For example, Aadhaar could have been a good use case to build on blockchain. Yeah, there are land registry records, which are good to go onto blockchain and stuff like that. So yes, the quality of data will improve, trust on data will improve, and then when you use this data in any downstream application, anything related to AI, you'll see an improvement. But again, like I said, blockchain is very specialized, very niche. If you have to look at AI, probably you can, and if I have to say that what percentage of industries will get impacted by AI, AI can impact 100% of things that we do, but blockchain probably 10-20%, not more than that, maybe 30%. But then that's again my personal view. But yes, that's how I see the link between blockchain and AI.
Yeah.
I
So,
think I would be much more interested. Sorry, one more thing I want to add. If somebody is really exciting and forward looking, you would be more interested in seeing what impact what is class quantum computing has on AI, because until now one of the bottlenecks for AI is the compute, right? With quantum, compute will play. So if somebody is forward looking and planning to keep an eye on quantum, I may not be very young. I don't know when it will come, but that's something which will be phenomenally good to have.
I would like to ask you that we have already illustrated about this course in collaboration with TCSI and IIT Guwahati. So, what do you think? Why are such certification or courses are valuable for students, and why they shouldn't miss this opportunity to grab these kind of courses?
So I'll give an honest answer, because I think that's what needs to be deserved. See, there are two, three kinds of people in the world. One is self-motivated, who know everything, who can figure out everything. Honestly speaking, everything is on internet. Why do we still go to universities? Why did I go to IIT? When you enroll in a course, you enroll into a structure. Will the course be able to answer all your questions? No. But especially if you don't have an exposure and you want to make a start, I think that's what a course like this can do for you, right? If you're self-motivated, if you're so disciplined, if you know, I'm sure all of you have access to these LLMs. I'm sure all of you have access to, Google. You can figure out that, it's not like out of the world course that we have organized, right? But the point is, yes, you get backed by people who know what they are doing. At least they can share their practical experience. That's what I came here for. Second, that it puts a structure around it, right? So when you work in a structured way, it becomes easier for people. But like I said, we are diverse people, right? Humans are very diverse. So if your training needs, if you believe in a structured L&D, learning and development program. I think this is a good opportunity to pick up. That's what would be all my answer to this. If you are really smart, if you are very committed, if you are very disciplined, there are, MOOC is a big thing. There are hundreds and hundreds of courses available out there, but we all know, right, how many people drop out of those courses. So I think that's the primary difference. It's a well curated course, in my opinion.
Says with the rapid pace of AI developments, how should fintech companies approach talent acquisition and training to ensure they have the right skill sets to harness AI effectively?
So,
It's more related about the skill sets which they want to foresee.
okay, see, okay, so now I come in as a co-founder and somebody who runs a company, right? For me, uh, trying to get somebody and train them for them to create value doesn't make sense. And I'll tell you why. Uh, I can't really train anybody, especially in area of AI. Why? Because by the time I'll finish, let's say by the time I finish training somebody, it will become outdated, right? Because the technology is moving so fast, right? So if I'm a company, what I do as a company is, and I'm talking from practical experience, right? We do bring in freshers, we train them. But what's more importantly that happens is when they're working on these projects, I think there are structures placed there where they can pick up skills, put them on projects, make them learn there. Or a very, until app development, it was still easy, teach somebody Java, teach somebody Python. But now the expectation is, students should know that beforehand because people are doing wonderful works, even in colleges, even outside. When you look at someone's resume, there are, hundreds of projects that they've already done, and it's all democratized. Well, it was not available. So the point is, will fintechs be able to train people? I doubt they can catch up. Otherwise, it will become a perennial classroom rather than a fintech. I think the more important question would be from other side, Shruti. What can individuals do to make them more relevant? I think these. So I usually tell my teams three things. If you are very busy while you are in a job, right, you have to figure out how to use technology to free up your time. That's the number one thing I say. Now, with that, and if you're not able to figure that out, you are going to have a tough time. Okay. The second thing is once you have that free time, invest back in technology. It's like, back in technology because then that will bring you enabler. ChatGPT, Gemini, these are your friends. They will tell you the path, learn prompt engineering, learn how to structure your thoughts, and that will help. Many of these things will fade out. We cannot, it's not possible to train somebody and say you work on it. By the time they join the job, everything changes. I've seen it so many number of times. So that's my practical approach to it. I think it's going to be a hard time even for us to train people. I think the frameworks are important. How you work is important. What is the definition of done? How do you communicate? What are the soft skills? What is the storytelling? How you present your ideas? I think these are the things which will start matter most. Focus on domains. Because see, insurance doesn't change. Insurance hasn't changed a lot in 100 years. I think that's where the investment should be made. I think technology people uh, should be asked to learn and keep yourself. Certifications are a good way that way, to keep yourself updated. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I would like to take the last question, which is coming from Sonali. So she's saying AI has the potential to democratize financial services, but what are some of the challenges or biggest barriers to widespread adoption of AI in underserved markets or developing economies?
Mm. So when we say AI has two buckets, right? If I leave aside agentic AI, most of the traditional AI, be it ML, be it deep learning, they had a deep need for data, underlying data, right? More often than not, that data itself is missing. Right? The other problem with AI is, that how do you ensure that your it's responsible, there is no bias, there is explainability. I think and I can't put more emphasis on the fact that why solutioning is critical, right? So if you are able to understand that, you're doing responsible AI, there is no bias in your underlying data sets, and bias is very easy to creep in, right? I can give you a very example. If you ask ChatGPT to or any of these LLMs to do a picture, of somebody writing, more often than not, you'll get a picture of somebody right-handed. Even if you ask left-handed, it'd still be a picture. That's the nature of the data, right? Women if you are doing lending, you'll see that men have a higher chance of going through. So the point that I'm trying to make is there has to be a conscious effort made. Democratization, yes, it is already happening. But then what I'm trying to say is the biggest challenge is A, around data, and B, more around the lack of solutioning. Even with agentic, we are doing, solutioning the way we were doing 30 years back. So yes, regulatory also. Sometimes, especially when you're operating in mature markets, the regulators come up. For example, um, you know, if there is not enough explainability, the auditors are uncomfortable and the regulators become uncomfortable. So when you are doing solutioning, I think these are the typical things to look for: explainability, bias, and more importantly, the responsible AI. And then look for the data that you're feeding, articulates the problem well, identify what we're trying to solve, and so on.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for answering that. Indeed, so if would like to summarize, I would like to add this that as the proverb goes, a rising tide lifts all boats. That rapid advancements in AI are not only transforming fintech, but also creating opportunities across the entire financial ecosystem, like sir has already mentioned, enabling innovation, efficiency, and inclusivity like never before. So I think we are coming to end of the session. Once again, I would request all audience to take the next step and enroll in the program designed by IIT Guwahati in collaboration with TCS IN. Links has already been posted in the chat box. So it's your chance to build in demand skills and get career ready with guidance from the best. So thank you, sir, for this wonderful session. Um,
Thank you, Rahul. Thank you so much.
I would like to thank audience.